Կրթությունն է եղել ազգային ինքնության ապահովման հիմնական գործոններից մեկը։ Դեռևս 5-րդ դարում ստեղծվել է հայերեն գիրը եւ ծաղկում ապրել դպրական համակարգը։ Դուք հնարավորություն կունենաք ծանոթանալու Հայաստանի կրթամշակութային ժառանգությանը վաղը, երբ որ կայցելեք Մատենադարան, որտեղ պահվում են ավելի քան 20,000 ձեռագրեր։ Այժմ Հայաստան թևակողել է զարգացման նոր փուլ։ 2018 թվականին երկրում իրականացված Թավշյա ոչ բռնի ժողովրդական հեղափոխությունից հետո մշակվում են նոր ուղենիշեր, իրականացվում լայնամասշտաբ բարեփոխումներ եւ հեռանկարային զարգացման ծրագրեր։ Այս համատեքստում կրթությունը դիտարկվում է որպես երկրի տնտեսական առաջընթացի, ժողովրդավարության ամրապնդման և ներառական աճի ապահովման գրավական։ ՀՀ կառավարության ծրագրում ամրագրվել է, որ կրթության ոլորտի զարգացումը սերտորեն կապակցվելու է պետության զարգացման ռազմավարությանը և գերակայություններին։ Մեր առանցքային նպատակադրումներից են որակյալ կրթության հավասար մատչելիության ապահովումը, համընդհանուր ներառական կրթության համակարգի ընդլայնումն ու ամրապնդումը, դպրոցների վերածումը զարգացման կենտրոնների, կրթության բովանդակության արդիականացումը բոլոր մակարդակներում, ուղղված սովորողների ճանաչողական, անձնային և միջանձնային հմտությունների զարգացմանը, դասավանդողների կարողությունների զարգացմանը, մասնագիտության հեղինակության և սոցիալական ապահովության մակարդակի բարձրացմանը, անհրաժեշտ ենթակառուցվածքների զարգացմանը, կրթության գիտության աշխատաշուկա կապի ամրապնդմանը, ինչպես նաև շարունակական կրթության հնարավորությունների ընդլայնմանը։ Կանոն զարգացման նպատակների ազգայնացման գործընթացին զուգահեռ կրթության, գիտության, մշակույթի և սպորտի նախարարության օրակարգային խնդիրն է մոնիտորինգի համակարգի զարգացումը, փաստերի վրա հիմնված քաղաքականությունների մշակման և միջազգային զարգացումների համաքայլ ընթանալու համար։ Այս տեսանկյունից կրթության մոնիտորինգի միջազգային ալյանսի և կանոն զարգացման 4-րդ նպատակի տեխնիկական համագործակցության խմբի հերթական 6-րդ հանդիպումների անցկացումը Երևանում կնպաստի մեր համակարգի զարգացմանը, ինչպես նաև միջազգային համագործակցության ընդլայնմանը։ Հատուկ շնորհակալություն եմ ուզում հայտնել ՅՈՒՆԵՍԿՕ-ի վիճակագրության ինստիտուտին, որի հետ արդեն բավական երկար տարիներ ունենք արդյունավետ համագործակցություն, ինչպես նաև ՄԱԿ-ի մանկական հիմնադրամի հայաստանյան գրասենյակին, որը աջակցում է այս միջոցառման կազմակերպմանը։ Հարգելի գործընկերներ, վստահ եմ, որ մեծ բավականություն կստանաք այս օրերին հյուրընկալվելով Հայաստանում և այս քննարկման արդյունքները հետագա հիմք կհանդիսանան ավելի լուրջ զարգացումներին այս ուղղության մեջ։ Շնորհակալություն ուշադրության համար։
Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you to Armenia to be hosting us. The team has been very supportive since the very beginning in offering the possibility to host this meeting here. It's a very important meeting. In our stop in the year, we are actually reviewing and revising how SDG 4 is progressing and trying to see how we are heading towards 2030. So I am really welcoming the opportunity to have here not only the Global Alliance to Monitor Learning, but we have 2 days of work, and then we will have 2 days of work of the Technical Cooperation Group for Education 2030. So for us, it's really a very important meeting. We have many countries here, more than 30 countries actually sitting in the room. We have the opportunity to have our partners, our multilateral agencies that are working with us. We have some of the donors as well sitting here and people who are committing and experts from different agencies. So for us, it's a very good opportunity to reinforce the concept of partnership. We're going to start by presenting some of our progress towards achieving SDG 4. And we're going to be discussing then specifically the work of this group that is dealing with the group of indicators that are relating to skills and to learning, to the quality of education that the Minister has actually highlighted as such a very relevant issue, and we have an economy that has shown such a spectacular growth in the last year, and a city that has changed in such an amazing way in the last 4 to 5 years, as I know. And as a personal note, it's very important to me. We are very connected as a family with the Armenian community. My daughter is married to an Armenian descendant. And so we are family. We're very used to the language and very used to the food and to all the culture. So I am really very welcoming the opportunity to be here, joining and knowing the country in much more detail. That is going to be such a big part of our life as a family. So for us, and saying that, I will start by actually asking my colleague from the director of the Global Education Monitoring Report to present the progress on SDG 4. It's a paper, a document that is going to actually to set the stage on the meeting, on where we are. This is a joint production of the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, that is the agency that is leading the methodological development and is the official data for the monitoring and reporting of SDG 4. The Global Education Monitoring Report is the official report. They want to actually to track and to tell how we're going and to actually to bring to table different policies and different options that the country have to achieve. So this paper has been presented as part of the high-level policy forum, and we have presented this in trying to see how we're heading towards 2030. So with that, setting the stage of our progress about the joint work of the Global Education Monitoring Report and the UIS, we're going to then go and see how the Global Alliance to Monitor Learning has actually worked in the last 4 years, what we have achieved, and we have still pending to actually to progress in terms of the development and the coverage of the indicator for monitoring SDG 4. So Manos, please.
Yeah. Silvia, good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, everybody. It's a pleasure and honor to be here to introduce a little bit the scope of the overall activities that will engage us over the next 4 days. As Silvia mentioned, the high-level political forum in 2019 was a special occasion for education and for the ability of the international community to showcase the progress that it has made towards the achievement. The high-level political forum is the highest-ranking body in the international architecture of the SDGs for countries to report what they have achieved and for overall political guidance to be given. 2019 is a special year, as I said, because it was the first time education was reviewed since 2015, since the launch of the agenda, because not every goal is discussed every year. There's not enough time and space for that. But it's also a special year because the high-level political forum is convened under the auspices of the Economic and Social Commission of the United Nations every year, but every 4th year there is a second session under the auspices of the United Nations General Assembly. That is what is going to happen in September, in just 4 weeks' time, where overall there will be an overall stock-taking of all 17 goals. But for the occasion of this high-level political forum and the review of SDG 4, we worked as the Global Education Monitoring Report with the UNESCO Institute for Statistics on this publication that tried to give the overall global picture of how far we have come in terms of the 11 global and some of the other indicators. So I'm going to take you briefly through that, focusing on more of the messages that set the agenda a little bit about what's ahead. A quick reminder for those of you who may be slightly less familiar, that there are 3 key features of the SDGs for the international community. It's no longer an agenda that is for some countries, it's a universal agenda for all countries. Its key principle is inclusion, leaving no one behind, and that affects a lot of the emphasis in the monitoring priorities that we have set, and also the linkages, that it's not about looking at each sector separately, but about the interlinkages between different sectors and how each one can mutually strengthen the achievement of the other. So there are 10 targets, plus finance, which is unfortunately not part of the education framework, but is covered overall in the SDG 4 architecture through the framework for action, which is the guiding document for this agenda. I'll take you very briefly through some of the key indicators. Essentially what this publication, very short publication that you have on your desks, entails is to give the latest information at the global stage, but also for selected groups of countries, income groups of countries as defined by the World Bank, and for some indicators to make projections over what our chances are to achieve the agenda by 2030. So under 4.1, the indicator on primary and secondary education, you'll see that currently 1 in 5 children, adolescents and young people are out of school, and the projection is that by 2030, as things stand with current trends, there will still be 1 out of 6 in this age group out of school. You'll see here that that varies according to level. 19% of primary school aged children will be out of school in low-income countries, the poorest countries of the world, and as many as half will still be out of school at the upper secondary school level by our target year. The second indicator, which is a thematic indicator, like the out-of-school children, is completion rate, and we have projected that globally, although the commitment is for all children to complete primary and secondary education by 2030, that as things stand, 93% will still be only be completing primary education by 2030. That's a commitment that was supposed to be achieved by 2015, and still, according to current projections, will not have been achieved by 2030. And upper secondary education, so in fact, the target of this agenda, only 60% will be completing secondary school as things stand, an increase of about 10 percentage points from the current level of 50%. The report also looked at our prospects for achieving target 4.1.1, the global indicator that is going to be occupying us this morning in more detail. We could not make a universal, let's say, projection, but using the quite concrete case of Latin America and the regional assessment, TERCE, we basically projected that as things stand, there will be progress by 2030. If we took the countries that have made the fastest progress so far, there would be a progress towards the target, but even that would be far below what is needed to achieve our commitments. Going through the other indicators, the other targets, in early childhood education, we have the pre-primary participation rate. Of course, there are two global indicators. As you may remember, one is on early childhood development, an indicator for which there is still ongoing work in terms of development, in terms of collecting data. But for participation rate, you see that there has been consistently progress. There are two different measures, but the global indicator, which is the orange line here, suggests that the global average will increase from 69% to 82%. So children aged 1 year below primary entry will be 82% of those will be completing, will have attended pre-primary education by 2030. In terms of target 4.3, very broad target, we see that globally there is a very fast rate of expansion. Between 2000 and 2017, participation rates, the gross enrollment ratio doubled from 19 to 38%. And these trends are expected to continue increasing at very high rates in middle-income countries where more than half of young people will be enrolled by 2030. In terms of equity, as I said, a key aspect of the new agenda, you'll see that still we have very large disparities, especially when it comes to wealth. So for every 100 of the young people in low-income countries who complete upper secondary education, only 85 of the poorest do so in the richest countries, and as few as just 11 of the poorest complete upper secondary education in low-income countries. So there is still a long way to go in terms of bridging these gaps. An indicator of major concern is teachers, target 4.C, where the commitment is that all teachers would be qualified and trained to teach in primary and secondary education. And unfortunately, in some of the parts of the world that face the largest struggle, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, what we observe is that the percentage of trained teachers has been declining uniformly in the last 15 to 20 years, which means that we're actually moving further away from the target than the actual intention. Coming to finance, as I said, there is no SDG target on that, but there is a commitment of the international community in the framework for action for countries to spend at least 4% of their GDP on education and at least 15% of their budget. And the analysis shows that more than 1 in 4 countries fail on both grounds. Another indication of the disparities that are facing this target is that, as you see on the left-hand side, the high disparity between low and high-income countries. Over a total spending of $4.7 trillion globally on education, you see that more than 60% of that, 2/3 of that, is actually spent in high-income countries, and low-income countries, which have more or less the same student population as high-income countries, spend a small fraction, 0.5% of the total. That means that high-income countries spend more than 130 times per capita than low-income countries. And you see another aspect of inequality, which is that in low-income countries, much more of the total spending actually comes from families and households, which leads to more disparities at the level of achievements and attainment. Aid to education, which is one important part of the commitment to achieving SDG 4 in the low and middle income countries, has actually stagnated since 2010. That was the result of course, the financial crisis in high-income countries, and the trends show that there have not been progress since, despite the analysis that shows that we needed those levels of aid to increase by 6 times if we were to help the poorest countries in the world achieve the goals. To set the agenda for this meeting, there are some very important areas that we need to make progress. First of all, benchmarks. It is, of course, very easy to set global targets, but sometimes this same target cannot really properly be implemented unless it has a specific flavor for countries, given that countries start from very different starting points. So a key aspect of the agenda for this and the next meeting is precisely to discuss how can we actually set targets and benchmarks that will make it more feasible for countries to be looking towards and be assessed whether they're making fast enough progress. Secondly, methodologies and methodological tools still are being developed for a number of indicators, and that's precisely the purpose we are here. We have come a long way compared to where we were when we started in 2015, but still there is work to do, and that is manifested also by the third challenge, that data availability sometimes continues to be poor, less than 50% even for some of our flagship indicators. So countries and partners must finance data collection and analysis, a joint analysis that the UIS and OECD and the Global Education Monitoring Report conducted showed that we only need $60 million per year in order to be able to assess the levels for the flagship indicators in this agenda. This is a very, very small amount considering the benefits that will come from knowing where we stand. Also, there is an appeal to those organizations that fund education data to be better coordinated and aligned, because still we see that a lot of money is spent on collecting information, but it's so disparate and disconnected, whereas if it were better channeled into the indicators that we are discussing in this meeting, there would be much faster progress. And finally, in order to make that coordination happen, we need a brokerage mechanism, a mechanism through which information is exchanged, shared, and channeled through an organization. The UIS has now received this mandate from the United Nations Statistical Commission to play this role, and that is very important to respect if we want to make the progress that we need by 2030. And last point, the framework of this short report is matched by a companion publication called Beyond Commitments, which shows what countries are doing and need to do in order to achieve SDG 4, not just the monitoring aspect, but overall. So it follows this framework of 6 transitions that we need to make that apply equally well also in the case of monitoring. It's the transitions of ensuring that we focus beyond averages in order to achieve equity and inclusion, beyond access in order to achieve our targets on quality and learning outcomes, which was not as prominent in the development agenda before 2015. Beyond basics, that's also another important aspect we'll discuss this afternoon, not just about reading and mathematics, but also in other aspects of learning. Beyond schooling, because this is an agenda that is not just about schooling, but also about the education of adults that we need to keep in mind, otherwise we cannot achieve our overall SDG objectives by 2030. Beyond education, as I mentioned before, is a cornerstone of this agenda, that it's not just about what education does, but what education does in collaboration with other sectors. And beyond countries, which is precisely the reason we're here today. It's about learning from each other. It's not about what each one country does, but what each one of us can contribute to a debate and a dialogue and a proper forum. And it's to the credit of UIS that we're here today to precisely exchange lessons on what we have learned. So we invite you to take a quick look at these recommendations of the report, which show how far we have come in terms of broadening the sources of information that we use for education. That was not the case before, but also what more we need to do to coordinate and link our data collection to the policies that we then implement to make the achievement of the targets possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Manos, for setting the stage. In these long papers you have the paper with you. So I would like to make us the UIS accountable for what we have been doing in the last 4 years. So we actually as leading the Global Alliance to Monitor Learning and the work we're actually doing in learning outcome. Let's try to see if I can go over the presentation. So we are here having, we have in your report that is actually in the folder and the link you have in the website, you have the activities that we're doing as a secretariat in leading and actually convening, communicating with the different work that is happening in the task forces with our technical partners. We have many technical partners, and this is part of the possibility of actually having the part of the success we are having right now is due to the credit that we have really very committed partners to help us on delivering. And we are really having here to try to talk to you and to tell you what we have been doing related to the indicator we have as a specific focus of this group. That are indicators related to learning in reading and mathematics in basic education, related to digital skills, to adult and youth functional literacy and numeracy, global citizenship and education sustainability in the dimension of outcomes, and there are some discussion on some other dimensions in target 4.7, and we're going to be we have a proposal last year, we're going to talk about that. As an overarching and actually guiding way of working with all the indicators, we have actually tried to go over 3 main areas of work that are trying to define a conceptual framework in each of the cases, what we're measuring, what is mathematics, what is reading, despite the fact that we really think that we know what is each of these dimensions, still for making it operational and to try to make a cross-national comparison. We really need to focus and define what we're going to be measuring. For the point of view of the consistent to the procedures, we need to have some quality in the collection of data, some representativity, like all related to all the methodological decisions, and we need to see how the procedures are put into place to ensure data integrity and to ensure data comparability across the different countries and the different programs of work. And we have a reporting framework, what is the scale we're going to use, which is the minimum level, how we compare this, how we link to a global definition when we have different measures at the national and the international or regional level. These are the three main areas of work that we have actually taken, and it's cross-cutting each of the indicators that we have actually taken into consideration. And for this reason, we start with indicator 411, is the first indicator in the global agenda. We're going to see in 4 weeks' time that is going to be a part of the reporting and the traffic light that the UN Statistical Division is going to put for the 17 goals. This indicator, along with the out-of-school children, is going to be reporting on SDG 4. So this indicator 411 refers to learning in reading and mathematics in 3 points of measurement. This is early grade, second and third grade, end of primary, and end of lower secondary, and refers to a percentage of kids achieving a minimum proficiency level that they actually have to demand some of the operation of these concepts. What is the percentage of a student reaching a minimum proficiency standard for the relevant domains? First, what are the domains? What is reading and what mathematics? What is the minimum level? So this indicator requires the definition of the minimum proficiency level and to find some way of linking or way of aligning or equivalence to a global scale, to a common scale that everybody is actually able to do. And so the underlying principle of work that the UIS has been actually very kind of committed to sustain during this agenda is the use of all available information, all the programs and efforts that the countries are carrying forward, and the global reporting to report what is needed for the global reporting. We're having a kind of a duty, a mandate, but we have to do a global comparison. That it doesn't mean that we're going to solve all the problems related to the measurement of every of the indicators that is in the agenda. That was one of the first actually principles we have agreed as a way of working. And this term of our work, and according to this kind of line that we have actually followed to try to order our work, we have actually defined the conceptual framework. We have developed and endorsed a global content framework for reading and mathematics that is available in our website. It has been endorsed at the global level after 2 consultations, following the consultation with experts, the consultation with countries, and the endorsement at the global level.